Welcome to the Giving Room with Dave and David, where we encourage remarkable generosity, from amazing stories to easy to understand discussions about tools for giving that may just be right for you.
Hey, welcome to the Giving Room. I'm Dave.
And I'm David.
And we are thrilled to have you with us today. And we're also thrilled because Wally Martinson is here with us. Wally is from the Mission Increase Foundation, and his organization is amazing. We're going to let him tell you a little bit more about that. So grab a seat, pull up a chair. This is going to be a great conversation. Here we go.
Yeah, and we just said your name, but can Wally, tell us your name again?
Yeah.
And then what you do. So
Sure.
who you are, what you do, and
Sure. So my name's Wally Martinson. I am executive director, really area director for Mission Increase here in Central Ohio. Mission Increase is a national organization, 20 some cities around the country. Missionincrease.org. There's a bunch of locations on our website. Our founder was basically a consultant who made a bunch of money and was trying to figure out how to invest it for the kingdom. And he was starting to invest in churches and ministries and realized there was a lot of capacity building that was needed to handle the kind of money he really wanted to invest. He was kind of tired of churches, I think, paving the parking lot for the 10th time, and was looking for more bang for his buck. So he actually started this Christ-centered consulting company of sorts called Mission Increase, where we're really coming alongside ministry leaders, organizations, churches to help them not just talk about money and not just raise money, but really how we view money and how we view giving, and really from a biblical perspective. So it's been doing it for 11 years here in Central Ohio. I love it.
And I'm thrilled to kind of put you on the hot seat today, because I know you had usually, and I literally just today was sitting in a room with 40 other nonprofits where you're coaching us on how to be better stewards of the resources and better stewards of the donors that we come, right? But today, we're not talking to organizations and how to better steward donors, but we're talking directly to donors on how to be, on how do you invest, how do you choose, and what are all the different ways that you can do this, right? So I'm really excited to kind of dive into this conversation and kind of completely turn your normal role of coaching nonprofits on the head on as a donor. What are some things I can be looking forward to and looking for?
Well, it's donors and pre-donors, right? Because sometimes what we're doing is we're trying to introduce someone who may not have, been a giver, or they've been nominally, or they've tithed to the church potentially. But have they done anything beyond that? So this really is sometimes how do we take next steps? So I think that's what's going to be exciting. This will be hopefully encouraging. A lot of times we want to be that. We want to be an encouraging place with this podcast, whether people are watching or listening, and then it'll help people take a next step. So we're relying on you to provide some of those next steps. And it's more than money, I think, is what you're going to lead with.
Absolutely. It's a hard issue. And I think one of the toughest things in our culture, particularly our American church culture, is how do we reshape the money and giving conversations more of giving as a spiritual discipline to be developed, like something that comes from Jesus. God so loved the world, he what? He gave. So the idea of what we think about giving and how we talk about giving in our church and our ministries, I think just as donors that we'd like to think of as champions, there's just so much that we can offer just in terms of how we invest and how we think about investing and how we invest our time as well as our money.
All right. Sorry to interrupt. I'm going to do this whole time, but you just said when you think of donors, you like to use the term champion. So you're actually talking about the donor as that champion, right? Absolutely.
Yep. Somebody that if you're giving $1, if you're praying a prayer, if you're volunteering for an hour, we love you thinking about yourself as a champion. You're not necessarily just doing this to help the organization, right? You're doing this because you want to get something done together. I mean, there's a cause that you believe in, that you want to invest in: time, treasure, talent, and testimony. So that makes you a champion. And so how can we grow as champions in these causes is what really interests us.
And we often think in the context of money, right? I mean, that's perhaps we think about money way too much. And I love that, right? You said time, talent, treasure, and testimony. So there's all these different ways that nonprofits, that we can get involved in a nonprofit. And so talk to me a little bit. I mean, can you break those down a little bit further for me? If I'm looking to, and I like how you said, it's not necessarily a organization, but it's a cause, right? We're going to do something together.
It's an outcome. Yeah. So we're not just trying to have a thing happen. We're trying to change a life, right? That's usually what's at the heart of this.
Absolutely. Like, I mean, for all of us, I mean, as we are champions of the causes that God's put on our heart, it's more than just a passive thing. I mean, let's look at just the cause of life today. I mean, that is such an important kind of front burner topic to be talking about. If God's encouraging me to invest in my local pregnancy resource center, what are there other opportunities that center can offer me, not just to get invested personally with my time, but bring my small group, bring my church to it, bring my friends to it. So some of the things, some of the areas we think of, and really just think of spiritual disciplines when we think about this. Praying. You know, I mean, if we're giving to a PRC, well, how are there opportunities that we can pray with the PRC for these lives?
That's a pregnancy resource center.
That would be a pregnancy. Pregnancy resource center. Exactly. So there's ways that we can share. I mean, sharing is a spiritual discipline. How can our pregnancy resource centers help equip us to share, not about the message of what's happening at the pregnancy resource center, although that's great, but how about like the cause of life? How can I talk about this issue of Roe v. Wade with my neighbors? I mean, the pregnancy resource center, they can be experts at this. Let's encourage them to train us and train our small group, not just to know about the center, but to be advocates for Jesus and the cause for life. So you got praying, sharing, serving.
Right.
And I think those are the main ones. I mean, learning can be another one, but I think learning is kind of the paper that the pen writes on. You know, I mean, this is learning for all of us along the way. And we love it because it's all spiritual formation.
Right.
That's what we love about this. It's all about growing in Jesus as we grow in our love for our cause.
We've talked a lot in this podcast about how, giving is joining, right? That first step, but joining is also joining. Right? That's kind of what you're saying.
Exactly.
You don't have to limit yourself to just giving. You can take, or I shouldn't say just giving. There's so much more you can do than giving, and nonprofits and organizations are desperately searching for that involvement and investment. Right.
Absolutely. I would say, Dave, that no matter how high capacity a director of a pregnancy resource center is, they are going to hit their glass ceiling. Like there's only so much the staff can do to get the job done. It's really, how do you take your cause and make it a movement? That's where we come in. That's where the champions come in. Like as a pregnancy resource center, you're taking the cause for life and wanting to make it a movement. We want to make this portable. We want, as a pregnancy resource center, to give you the tools to share for Bible studies with your friends in your small group. I mean, you can talk about the number of sonograms you've done. That's wonderful. But what are 5 things to share with a girl who's in a troubled pregnancy that will encourage them? Like, how do we really teach? How do we learn about the cause so we can be an advocate? I would say an ambassador for the cause. That's how ministries grow. I mean, if money alone solved all the problems, I think the government would probably had solved a long time ago.
You think?
I mean, this is it's a bigger thing. And a checkbook is the beginning of a journey. Like that is joining. But let's move from passive donors to active owners,
right?
Along the way. That's when we really see some progress.
So I want to, sorry to interrupt. When you say testimony, like I know I've shared even with other clients and donors, influence, is it the same word? Because I know sometimes I've even asked folks, well, have you been involved enough that you're sharing both? So like you just said, that can sometimes be, the client or the object of the outreach, like somebody who's in a crisis pregnancy, or it can be, someone who looks like you that could make a gift like you did, right? It's kind of a both and I know I've asked a couple folks, well, have you told anybody about this? And typically the answer is no. And then sometimes I've even challenged people to start with their mom. I'm like, just like you ought to be able to do that.
Right.
And that's like a friendly audience. So like
should be.
Like go tell your mom why you're into this and practice with your mom. And
that's excellent.
That influence piece, that's a significant gift, right? And sometimes people are more.
It really is. And the power of peer-to-peer communication cannot be lost on us. I think Pew Foundation did a study and found that peer communication is up to 7 times more effective then so you know, us sharing the story of why we're so committed to the cause of life and why we're choosing not just to give financially but volunteer, us sharing with our friends is multiple times more effective than the director of the Pregnancy Resource Center sharing with my friend. So again, the idea is for us to move from passive to active, sharing our testimony. Exactly. It's a couple different ways. Being involved with the ministry itself, and also, why am I giving? And I don't think that's a selfish thing or that's a pat on the back thing. I mean, we know that the Lord's given us these resources.
They're His resources.
They're His resources.
Right.
Yeah, I mean, they're His, A to Z. So how are we stewarding them? That testimony can be shared and have powerful impact.
Well, I was thinking about, again, I work in a radio context in fundraising and have for many years. And we had a fundraiser a while back where a local concrete company decided to give a matching gift. And so we launched this matching gift. We have the testimony of the owner of the concrete company sharing, and a buddy of his who owns a different concrete company called and said, I'm going to meet his match.
Yeah.
And then so I said, how about we just do a shared? We do a double concrete match, and another concrete company called in and said, I'm going to meet I had like the 2 hours of concrete on the radio fundraiser.
It was like a rock solid hour then.
But good foundation.
Right. It's like really strong.
It started with a supporter, taking an extra step.
Yep.
And going to the point of even sharing their testimony in a radio context, but they could have also done it personally. And it encouraged generosity in a better way than even our DJs could have asked for on the radio. And suddenly again, we had a rock solid hour.
I love the idea of testimony, and I'm not trying to change that word, but I think sometimes that's a churchy word,
exactly.
right? So sometimes if you think influence too, I think that can be, is it okay if we use that as a synonym?
Target, talent, treasure, and influence doesn't sound as good together.
Well, and it's not a T. Right?
Exactly.
I get it.
But I mean, story, that's got a T in it, but just share your story.
Right,
I mean, this is a relationship. God's got a relationship with us. He has us in relationship with our friends. The story on giving with the concrete company, that's abundant life. Mm-hmm. I mean, that's the life that Jesus describes, because giving is fun. It's just that our culture has kind of twisted that thing a little bit to make it a have to instead of a get to sort of thing.
Yeah, I'm sure those three probably that was fun for them that day. I'm sure they had fun with that. And the one that was the catalyst, I'm sure that was really, then he knew that he'd leveraged all of this.
Well, the funny thing is, though he was the initial gift that time, he actually did it to me at Christmas again. He called in and did it to someone else's gift. It was a construction company, and he called in with the concrete. So it's just amazing. It's funny how those stories happen. And again, it begins with a relationship, as you talked about. And, and you see how that translates. That's awesome.
Yep.
Can you talk? So I love this idea of a champion, and I think that's right. And I think that's so much more colorful and informative than just merely being a donor, right? Yeah. So we talk about, we want to encourage remarkable generosity as part of why this podcast exists. And we want it for everybody. That's why it's, as simple as like the giving room. We want it to be like your living room. This is everybody's able to do this. Yep. But how do you overcome sort of like fear? So even on that influencer testimony piece, like sometimes they're like, well, if I tell somebody, then they're going to come ask me. And then where's it stop? And where's fear?
That's a really good question
for donors, and how do they kind of overcome that?
I think it's real, and it needs to be intentionally thought through. I would just challenge us thinking about the money conversation itself. I was in a conversation, and Dave, I heard I was telling you guys this earlier today, but I was in a conversation with a missionary in Eastern Europe who was talking about how they talk about money in Moldova, how we talk about family in the United States. And it was like, what are you saying? He's like, yeah, well, I mean, if I see you in America and I haven't seen you, hey, how's your wife? How's your kids? We would never do that in Moldova. Well, what do you talk about? We talk about money like you talk about family. Really? Well, what do you mean? Everybody knows what everybody makes. Everybody knows if they're in debt or not, and if they're getting. It's the weirdest thing.
Our culture is more like that's like, all. Nobody knows.
We're not going to talk about that. And so, what's land the plane? What's the point here? He says, well, it's my understanding that what a culture idolizes is what it has a hard time talking about.
Which is an interesting, the difference between like a capitalist, money is everything society and a socialist society, right? And the difference in how that even, you think about how our geopolitical, how that actually affects our culture, not always for positive,
right?
If that makes sense in this conversation. Sorry to cut you off there.
So go back to that point because that's fantastic what you're about to say.
So I would see this story, this influence conversation as missions work. This is not about a weird sort of clunky money thing. This is how God has changed my life and my heart. It's almost like providing a heart jailbreak for me. I'm experiencing generosity in this cause. And you know what? It's not about the dollar amount or anything like that. It's come join me on the journey. Let's change the world together. That's what we would encourage the ministry leaders to portray themselves as a pregnancy resource center. You can ask somebody for $100 and they'll give you $100 to help you out. You say, let's go on a journey together. And people will give you $1,000 for that. So, there's just a lot to this is being seen as discipleship more than it is about a money conversation. It's a generous conversation more than a money conversation.
Right.
Yeah. So, how do we actually improve generosity? How do we think about these things? And then how do we go to that level of being a champion where it's not just money, it is talent, which is also a meaningful gift. That's a huge gift.
Huge.
Can you talk more about that? Has there been examples where somebody has leveraged a talent?
I think we were just talking today with somebody who said that they had somebody who decided they were going to volunteer, basically being their project manager on a capital campaign, gratis. Yeah. That's tens of thousands of dollars. That's cold hard cash that you might have to pay for somebody. And they're right there. There was somebody who was just giving to them, and for the ministry, I'll give them credit. They were able to look back at the people who God had brought to them and say, I want to help. It's not what they wanted from somebody. It's what they wanted for them. They wanted them to engage and hey, do you want to bring your gifts and talents to the table? They happened to say yes. There's huge financial impact on that. Not $1, exchanged, but big impact.
Wow, that's fantastic. We're usually in the context where we're putting that burden on the organization, but I think I would like to just encourage the listener here, or somebody that's watching this. You can do that. You can go offer. You don't have to wait for the nonprofit to come to you. So if you've got a specific skill set, that doesn't mean they're going to always be receptive because they, again, that's our job to try and get that world there. But I think I would encourage you to do that, right? If you've got a special gift and you think,
right. A great example, we actually interviewed him on a previous episode of this podcast, is that when we had John Deemer in here. He's a phenomenal guy. He's a chaplain volunteers 30 plus hours a week as a chaplain because he was medically forced to retire in his 40s, and he has time. And God led him here, but we weren't ready for him.
Yeah, he came in the door as a donor, right?
Right.
If I remember his story. We'll link his story in these comments so people can find it.
But it was one of those things where, again, it started with he didn't have as much to give, but he had time, and we weren't ready, and he kept on pushing, and to the point now where he is leading an incredible small group ministry for us, doing amazing work as a chaplain ministry, and it was all again through taking the resources he had and more than money, and though he is also giving generously financially, but to serve with what his greatest resource that he has that others don't have is time.
Yeah, and that's a great example of a champion effort.
Absolutely.
Right?
Yeah, definitely. Don't wait to be asked. God's put this burden on your heart for the cause of life. Reach out to your pregnancy resource center and say, hey, you might be a CPA and say, hey, I could do some volunteer books. You might be a CPA and say, I want to do something completely different. I want to be a volunteer and help with the men, help counsel the men that might come in if you're a male CPA. These are important tasks that a lot of times the ministry leader might not. They might go, that's a great idea. They haven't thought of that because they're just trying to get through the day and the week and trying to make sure they see clients. So there's a lot of opportunity there, I think. And it'd be a huge blessing for any organization that you're with.
And I think one other thing, just from your context, Wally, as you coach these nonprofits, is as a donor, as a person who's looking, or a champion, I need to use the right word here, as a champion looking to get involved. And even if I have a cause that's on my heart, what are some things I should look for in the organization to know it's healthy, to know it's a place that is worthy of my time, talent, treasure, and influence? Your testimony, right?
Yeah. I'm with you.
Right?
Yeah.
What are some things I should be looking for?
That's a great question. Just a couple of basic things I would say would be, for lack of a better word, attentiveness. Like if you're making a contribution and you haven't heard anything back from the organization in a couple weeks or a month, that to me would be a little bit of a warning flag. It's not a deal breaker, but maybe to flip the script, if somebody is reaching back to you within 72 hours saying, hey, I'm thanking the Lord for you, we appreciate your partnership. They send you a welcome letter, like welcome to the family. Here's like, would you like to be a prayer partner for us? Would you like to come and get a tour of the center? Any sort of invitation for next steps that you're getting from ministries. If I was looking for one thing, that's what I would be looking for.
And I think to borrow on that real quick, because I was literally talking with someone today, talking about, when I'm always nervous when a nonprofit reaches out to me, because I always feel like that, they're not saying that they always want something, but the idea of that's actually a sign of a healthy organization, that they have a plan for you, they have a strategy here.
Yep.
And you can always say, back off a little bit, but you can use that as a sign of, well, they're not ignoring you and taking you for granted. They're actually proactive here, right? That's kind of what you're saying.
Exactly. Well, and they're not seeing you, this is a little crass, but they're not seeing you as a human ATM machine,
Right.
Thank you for your gift. We'll take it from here. We'll get back to a year from now when we're doing our next annual campaign. That happens and is okay, but I think there's so much better that we can do with that. So you can always politely decline. Normally what we're coaching ministries to do is consider a non-cash next step, which is what we've been talking about the whole time. Like, what are these on-ramps? What's a prayer on-ramp? What's a serving on-ramp? What's a sharing on-ramp? If those ministries have those, or even hinting at it, because it's hard to really develop. The Lord might be asking you to help them develop that prayer strategy. You've given $100, but you're a prayer warrior. Don't hold back. Go to that mission and say, hey, by the way, do you have a prayer team that prays for you guys? You'd be an answer to their prayer probably, for if you came to them or something like that. So you're just looking for that partnership vibe, that partnership feel like we're going to do this together. It's not like us and see you later. We're going to do this together.
Wow, that's fantastic. And if they can also be, you said, we're thankful, we thank God for you, but also, and here's kind of what we did together. Like your support let us do this thing, and this is the life change and the kingdom benefit that happens.
That is a great point. I should have shared that, David. You're right. Another part of the feedback loop that you're going to want to get is you're going to want to get, in a sense, what your money is, how your money is going from trapped energy to changed lives. Like what does it look like for this investment? Any sort of investment sort of language is what you're looking for as well, with impact.
Yeah, we talk a lot about that proof of ministry, that proof of outcome.
Yeah.
So how your resources are being engaged. Now, one thing I'm just thinking, I'm putting the guilt hat on here. Okay. There's a lot of causes that I care about, right? I care about the right to life. I care about radio. I care about all of these things. I don't have capacity to become a engaged champion in all of them. Is that okay? Like, is just writing a check okay? If that's all I want to do, or is that kind of expected that I do all of this stuff?
Or do I have to just pick the one or two and ignore the rest?
Yeah. Like, how do I balance all of this?
You know what? I don't. This is art, not science. I think it is a matter of prayer. I just love the idea, David. You brought it up. My time, my talent, it's all the Lord's. Like I'm here to steward that. Lord, what do you want me to get excited about? And no guilt in this whatsoever. I completely agree with you. There's nothing wrong with cutting a check for $25 here and $50 here and $1,000 here. But this cause I'm really passionate about, this fourth one over here. And so I'm going to invest a lot more of my time, treasure, talent for this influence to make it because I need it for my spiritual life. It might be my church is doing a missions trip. I don't know, but whatever it is, this is not an episode. This is a journey, like these gifts that are being made 25, 50, 100 over here. Here's the journey I'm going on. And it's fine. I mean, because it's a matter of priorities, and rarely have I met people that are like involved in 5 or 6 or 8 things.
Especially as a champion.
Exactly. Especially
they may be a donor, but they may not be a champion.
That's right.
Like, how do you do that?
I think I was chatting with a friend today, and I was talking about how there are causes I like, and there are my causes.
Excellent.
Right?
Yeah.
And I may give to all the causes I like, but then I give to my causes, right? And there's a difference, and that's okay.
Absolutely.
And they're still thrilled that you care about their causes, but then also, and just to talk a little bit to the nonprofit out there right now, understand that some of your supporters, you may just be the cause they like.
Yeah, you're not their top priority.
Yeah,
or you may be, but you may not be.
Some of your supporters, you might be their cause.
Yeah.
And it's okay.
Our experience in working with ministries, working with champions, is that probably a third of your current champion base is ready to take a next step with you. It might not be the ultimate next step, but it is going to be an opportunity. They're going to have a backstory. There's something that's going to be engaged, that's going to draw them in. 1 out of 10, though, this is going to be their cause.
Yeah.
And so just, again, be ready as a nonprofit listener, be ready to engage your champions to discover who that 1 out of 10 is. And if you talk to 5 and they're already like, yeah, we're good. We're with homeless ministry. Fine. It's wonderful. Thank you for giving to our, thank you for giving to our pregnancy resource center. It's all, can I connect you with the homeless ministry? Are you connected with them over there?
Yeah.
But there's going to be, 3 out of 10 and then 1 out of 10. It's going to be on, and to be ready. That's where it gets really fun. That's where you start discovering what you discovered with the guys.
I remember having a conversation with the supporter of the radio ministry here, and I just said, so what all are you passionate about? And he just dove into this completely different cause that he loved. And he's like, so of that cause, who do you recommend I give to?
Yes.
Because he trusted me, but I wasn't his cause.
Yep.
But he knew we had served him well. He cared about our radio ministry, and he trusted our vetting of the actual cause he was really passionate about. And it was a really fun conversation. Powerful. And, I had to, humble myself a little bit, but it was really cool to see how that can play out. And as a charity, am I willing, as a ministry myself, am I willing to direct him elsewhere? And that's, I think, as you talked about that investment piece and the way that, what do you want for your supporter, not from them.
Yep,
right.
Well, and I think that's another thing we've been talking about, how as a donor or a prospective donor, would I decide if this is an organization I want to support? And it may be that if I'm talking to someone and they're willing to hold me loosely, me and my gift loosely, that's a really good sign.
That's a good sign.
And if they are willing to say, hey, I heard you mention this thing. If that's really where your passion is, do you know about XYZ ministry across town? As soon as you hear that, the organization you're with, that may be somebody you want to think about supporting, but also follow that sort of prompting and that piece. If they understand that you don't belong to them, it's sort of the other side of the coin. It's like our stuff doesn't belong to us. That's the first thing we have to, as a donor and prospective donor, we have to realize our stuff's not our stuff. It's God's stuff. And we got the stewardship piece. But at the same token, we actually aren't the stuff of the nonprofits that we support either, right?
That's right.
We're in ministry partnership with them. That's the giving, joining piece that our listeners have heard all the time. But they actually don't own us. We're not their thing. So they need to be able to hold that loosely, just like we need to hold everything that God puts in our hands loosely to be able to leverage for his kingdom. And
we always talk to the ministry leaders about, let's just pretend, wink, wink, that God has your budget covered, which is hard because, it can tend to feel like a zero-sum game, and there's competition out there for limited dollars, and it's just really hard to find that in Scripture. I don't think we've got a resource problem in Central Ohio. And I think if you talk to people who are really in the game, they would say, we have a connection problem. We don't have a resource problem. There's more than enough resources. It's getting the right people in the right places for the right resources.
Well, as you say regularly, God has already provided you all the supporters you need for what he has called you to do.
That's right.
And I think that's at the end of the day, and as a person who is that supporter, right, is what is God prompting in your heart? beyond resources, beyond your time, within your time, talent, and treasure and testimony, what are the resources that you have that you can give? What is the cause that God has laid on your heart? And how do you get more involved in that?
The beautiful Holy Spirit breadcrumb trail. Really, it's an adventure. I think it's part of the abundant life that Jesus promises for us.
So to wrap things up here, just thank you for being part of the Giving Room. Wally, thank you so much for being here with us.
Thanks for inviting me. Appreciate it.
That this is just encouraging on your path of generosity.
Absolutely. So as you're looking for a place, again, time, talent, treasure, testimony, there are so many ways that you can get involved. And again, if you want to learn more about the Mission Increase Foundation, you can find them at mif.org. You can also look in the comments below on this, in the description of this episode. But also you can learn more from givingroompodcast.com. We have details there as well for you. Please remember to subscribe wherever you're listening to this. So again, thank you so much for being here and joining us in the Giving Room today.
The Giving Room podcast is brought to you by Giving Design LLC, where we help ministries and their donors utilize planned giving to change the world. Go to givingdesign.com to learn more. As always, a huge thank you to River Radio Ministries for sponsoring and producing this podcast. Go to riverradio.com to listen or learn more.